Raíces Global, or Raíces Global, first started taking shape as we started realizing that although the ministry that we were doing was great and necessary, that there was a really big need in our own community that we were living in, that we live in our neighborhood. And we started thinking through a lot of the things that changed our lives when we were growing up, or that changed the lives of my kids growing up in the U.S. And not to say that that's the standard, but what we started realizing was that we just simply don't have those things in our neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, specifically in the neighborhood of Ejida Locolucen, there's one really small Protestant church. And other than that, there are no social outreaches. There's no family ministry. There's no youth ministry. There are no after-school programs. There's nothing that gives kids things to do within our own community, which naturally means that you have to leave our community to do anything and everything. The school systems here in Mexico don't have sports programs for the most part. If they do, it's usually private schools or kind of higher end private schools that have sports, but you're limited a lot of times to only 2, maybe 3 different sports, and they don't always offer them every single year, or they have really rigorous schedules that don't really allow academics and sports to go really well together, and you have to fund them privately on top of what you're already paying for private tuition. So it's just really difficult to be involved, or you have to go to a really big sports complex, and then you're kind of dominated by however they do things and whether there's availability, and you're on a list of people who can even get in. And so we just started thinking through, man, what are the needs? What are the needs in our community? And what we realized pretty quickly, we started zigzagging and walking every single street of our neighborhood. And we realized, man, there's not even a chunk of land with grass in it that the public has access to. There are no parks. There are no meadows, because we're super urban. Even where I'm sitting right now is basically just trails, and that's it. You can't just go kick around a soccer ball or throw a frisbee, which means that you can't have day camp, anything. So we just thought, man, if this is not happening in our community, where are people going? So people are either having to leave and go find it somewhere else, or they just simply don't get to participate. They don't have anything to do after school every day. And we just started thinking, man, how did those things impact and change our lives? It gave us a huge sense of purpose. And what we also realized is that usually those things were often attached to church programming. Even in the United States, if you're not involved in a church, you can still participate in anything that a church offers, whether it be a sports program or a youth event or a youth retreat or anything. It was so often attached to youth programming through a church or like a community center organization. And so there's no community center in our area. Community centers aren't really a thing except with Centro Noé. And we just thought, man, there's just such a need here, because that's also where we found a lot of our primary mentors. It's where we found examples and coaches and adults that were investing into the lives of students. But it's also often through church programming, it's where adults find friendships. It's where adults find people to walk alongside life with. And there just simply isn't that here. There's nothing for adults to come together and talk and laugh and have fun. There are no women's groups or men's groups because of the lack of the style that we're used to in a Protestant church, in an evangelical church setting. And so our goal with Raíces Global is multi-level. We want to create community, but also with every opportunity to share the gospel. And in doing that, we unite the community. We open doors to conversations. We create an established trust within our community. So many people here will live next to someone for decades and not even know their name. And there's just such an opportunity to create unity within our community, but then also have this opportunity to share the gospel, but then also grow that and talk about what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to love the Lord? What does it mean to walk with him and have a life in Christ, and do that together as a community, which often happens through church programming in the United States. And because the Protestant church is so much smaller here, there's just not much access to that. But we can also talk, what does this mean? What does it mean to love God? Is God real? Is Jesus relevant? And have these really important questions. What is trust? What is faith? What does it mean to live a life of honesty and integrity? And how do all those things play into someone's life? And just have these important conversations that a lot of people just simply aren't having here because there's nobody here to make it happen. So Raíces Global, the idea of it being global, is also this huge opportunity to have people from all over the world come in and see what we're doing, create relationships with the people here, and share what they've learned about life, whether it's a skill or something that they've learned personally that's helped them and challenged them, or if it's something that's very practical. How can I use the education that I have to help somebody else who just doesn't know that thing yet? And we would love to receive people from all over the world, because ultimately that's what made me fall in love with the idea of serving the Lord in another country, was short-term missions. And so we would love to have people from all over the world come together to make this happen. There's such a need here. There is such a need in Mexico for people to just fall in love with Jesus and to have their hearts and their minds changed and to have a sense of freedom that they've never experienced before. And in our neighborhood specifically, there is such a need. And we are so excited to get to know this community more and more and more, and help fill a need for youth and families, to prevent brokenness in families, to help people heal from a lot of broken systems that they experience on a regular basis, but then ultimately have it all be centered in the love of God and a relationship with Jesus Christ.